Okay, I know some people are going to get triggered by the title of this video and come in here and say that I overreact too when it comes to the Bulls, both good and bad. And you're right, I do. We all do as fans of the team. But after all the comments I saw in the live chat tonight on the channel, as well as just the Bulls getting bombarded on Twitter for this loss, I had to come in and put some things into perspective when you look at the outcome of this game, and hopefully that will remind Bulls fans not to overreact in these types of scenarios. Now, first and foremost, the Bulls don't match up well against the Pacers, and I talked specifically about this in my weekly preview video earlier this morning about how, especially without Vucevic and of course Patrick Williams, that a team like the Pacers, who although yes have struggled, are going to be a hard match for the Bulls down low when they have two very great big men in Sabonis and Miles Turner, one of who is great on offense and the other a great defensive player. Like, the Bulls have done well recently going small because really they've been forced to with no Vucevic, but it's not going to work against a team like the Pacers. And on top of that, it doesn't help when you get a last-minute scratch in the lineup of Alex Caruso, who has been such a big glue guy for this team with his defensive intensity, his impeccable perimeter defense, and also his playmaking on offense too. It speaks volumes to the energy that he brings when he's on the court. And you saw that from the get-go. The Bulls came out sluggish and the Pacers jumped out all over them, and they never looked back from the tip. Second, the Bulls were playing the second night of a back-to-back against a strong Knicks team where both teams were putting it all out on the floor, and the Bulls had to fight incredibly hard to get through the Knicks' tenacious defense. Not only that, but it's the second night of a back-to-back in which the Bulls just came back from a long road trip of 5 games on the West Coast. And I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather see the Bulls beat up on the Knicks and come out strong in that one than look lethargic like they did in this one against the Pacers. Obviously, we would much prefer they look strong in both and win both games, but the NBA season is a grind. It's 82 games, traveling for 50% of said games. You have players in and out of the lineup throughout it, and at certain parts of the schedule, you have teams playing 4 games in 5 nights or 5 games in 7 nights, which, by the way, the Bulls will have played 5 games in 7 nights by the end of this week when they face the Heat, which, to be honest, the NBA really needs to look at this further and assess how to better structure their schedule. Like, how is it ever a good idea for the health and safety of the players and for the highest quality of competition when you have guys playing 5 games in a span of 7 days and they're traveling in and out during that time? Like, that's a recipe for injuries right there and poor quality basketball. You would think the league would want to protect their assets at all costs, but maybe not. I guess it's all about selling tickets at the end of the day. But anyway, before I rant on about that too much, the other thing to put in perspective is, guys, this is just one game. Every team has bad games. Every team in the NBA. And I'm sure some of you will say, well, they don't get blown out as bad as the Bulls did against a bad team. First of all, the Pacers aren't that bad. I think they're much better than their record would indicate. And second, go and look at the history of any team. No matter how good they are bound to have some occasional bad games which they lose to an inferior team. It happens. Again, it's an 82-game season. You're not going to win every game. And even for the games that they do lose, you're not going to be losing them in close matchups. That's the nature of the NBA. They are professional athletes, and some nights guys are going to get hot and others they're going to be off, regardless of the talent level. I think somebody said it in the comments of my last video in which I talked about the Bulls schedule and how it's going to be easing up a bit, and they said no game is an easy game in the NBA. And to a certain extent, there is truth to that. Any team can get blown out on any given night, regardless of said team's record. That's what makes this league so great, is the level of parity that exists between teams. Like, there were guys in the chat saying, well, I guess the Bulls really just aren't as good as we thought they were, or that they were going to miss the playoffs now, and how Lonzo Ball just isn't a good basketball player, or the best one, fire Acme. Now, I'm sure some of these guys were trolling, but for those who were serious in their remarks, it's one game. And I know as soon as the Bulls start winning again, that narrative is quickly going to revert back. This was a bad loss, don't get me wrong. Like, some guys just straight up did not show up tonight. Guys like Lonzo Ball and Kobe White. Lonzo did not score a single point in 25 minutes of play. He was 0 for 7 and only had 2 assists. He was minus 32 for the night. What was more shocking was that he actually didn't have the lowest plus minus on the night. That award goes to Zach LaVine, who was a minus 34 despite putting up 17 points on 7 for 18 shooting. And then Kobe White. Everyone was talking about last night being the comeback game for him, myself included. Again, overreactions at their finest. And then he gets a bone thrown at him for a golden opportunity with Caruso being out to start the game. And he goes 2 for 10 from the field, playing bad defense that enabled the Pacers to hammer him on offense. Now, I will say I was a little disappointed that Billy Donovan basically threw in the towel by the end of the third quarter and didn't play a single starter in the fourth. Like, I get it, why risk an injury when these guys have a lot of games coming up and they just played a bunch of games. Give them some rest and let's get ready for the next one. But we all know both DeRozan and LaVine have been phenomenal in the fourth quarter so far this season. In fact, they lead the league in fourth quarter points, DeRozan being number 1 and LaVine number 2. And in a way, I thought it would have been cool to see them attempt one last Hail Mary of a run at the end of the game, but I think we all knew this game wasn't winnable by halftime. But in any event, even DeRozan had a subpar game for him. He scored 18 points on 50% shooting, but he was playing with very low energy. Wasn't as aggressive as we're used to seeing. The guy only pulled down 1 rebound tonight, playing the 4-2 in a game where you really needed his rebounding against a big Pacer team. Like, the Bulls got out rebounded tonight 59-38. That is an insane disparity, and it's because, again, the Bulls do not match up well against this team with their size. Also, shots just weren't falling down for the Bulls. I mean, like, you finished the game shooting 36% from the field and 21% from 3. You're not going to win the ball game. I don't care who you're going against or how strong your defense was in the game. You got to hit your shots. And geez, it pains me to even see this stat line, but 13 assists in total for the Bulls compared to the Pacers' 27. No setting up of plays tonight, no team basketball. The ball movement across the board was non-existent, and you just can't have that. It's what makes this Bulls team so great when they're pushing the ball in transition and playing with pace rather than just one and done possessions and stop and pop shots. That's just not winning basketball. 77 points for the Bulls in total. I believe that is their lowest output of the season thus far. Again, starters didn't play much in the second half, so that is a contributing factor, but it is disappointing nonetheless. But all of that being said, yes, a bad loss. Should the Bulls be embarrassed? Yes. Is it a game to be concerned about something for the long-term success of this team throughout the season? Probably not. I mean, the game against the Warriors for the Bulls was a very bad game, and the Bulls bounced back and responded by sweeping the LA teams. This is still a good basketball team, a talented team, but every season teams are going to have their off nights, and it doesn't help when you're shorthanded, which the Bulls were tonight. And man, I guess this game really does say a lot about Alex Caruso's value to this team. I may have to make a separate video on that. Let me know if you guys want to see something like that. But bad loss, guys. It's hard to swallow, but we move on. The Bulls will be facing the worst team in the league on Wednesday, so hopefully, and I mean hopefully, that game should be an easy win. Don't forget to submit your hot takes in before Wednesday as well. In the meantime, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.